Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm just going to be showing you my custom fix for preventing damage to the gate system on the lemax Dr. Stretch and Pull's Torture Factory. This is an issue that was encountered with this building that was sent in to me by a customer. Unfortunately, it's been in and out here now like 3 times, and each time there's something else that went on with it. Originally, it was just the hope that I could install my custom lighting system with it, and then we also did notice that the gate motor was clicking and there was a bad gear that was inside of this gearbox, and unfortunately it's the friction fit gear on the most output shaft, so the one that's actually linked to this main outer gear. So the first gearbox was shot because of this sensor was not glued in correctly, and also the wiring was not soldered on correctly. So both of those leading to poor sensoring, and then it was just basically grinding the gearbox when it got to the top and bottom, because lemax's programming allows for like a split second extra, so it can for sure reach its destination on both close and open. And then I was able to sort of piece together and put in another gearbox from a parts building that we bought to try and just get another gearbox going for the gate motor, and that one was fine, and I shipped it back. And then unfortunately the guillotine had issues due to a transistor failure on the board, and I was able to replace that. And then I send it back, and then this stupid gearbox failed, and it would go up and then occasionally not come back down for like 2 times. And it's basically that the inner gear again, that's the tiny one on the inside link to the output shaft of this gear, it's supposed to be friction fit, and right now it's behaving, but basically it will slip, and it wasn't working correctly. My theory on that now is, though, due to these stupid sensors. I've gotten very, very sick of working on the poorly designed and poorly manufactured system that this is. I'll show you in a second here of the new system they came up with for the redesign after they just decided not to do the guillotine anymore. But basically the combination of having these kind of servo-esque gearboxes, of they're able to have really high output power, but these are plastic gears, so if they actually encounter something that has more force on it, like reaching the end point here, it slowly shreds the gears because they're plastic, and they shouldn't be supplying that much torque to something like this. But then basically these sensors here, they're forced to bend at these like extreme angles when they reach the top and bottom. I don't know if this one will... This one's not really demonstrating it. It also appears that this one is slightly different, even though these are both the same era of the 2004 building. It seems like this one actually has slightly better quality sensors, because this one I have not replaced these. These are what was originally on here, but there's no middle plastic piece, and there's only one plastic head. Whereas this has dual plastic heads and that middle black plastic piece, which I think helps with the tensioning. Whereas this one, it doesn't have any of that, so they have to collide a lot more to get it to stop. So I'm just talking this all up to poor manufacturing on lemax's behalf, And I'm assuming this is why they discontinued this version of the building, is maybe due to parts being incorrect or being used poorly. So, because these are all hand glued basically in place, and when I received this building the first time, the bottom one was not glued on anymore. And my solution to fixing these type of sensors without that plastic bit now is putting in this spring to tension the top one, because I noticed after replacing this gearbox again and gluing it all in, everything's working fine as it should. When it was reaching the top here, it was getting so close to the end that it was ticking. So it was causing more stress on the gearbox than what it should be. And it's just driven me nuts because I've replaced this now too many times, and it shouldn't keep breaking like this. So it seems to be reliably working now due to regluing this better and soldering the sensors better. And there's actually a gap when it reaches the top and bottom, so it's for sure not putting extra stress on the gears. So it should hopefully last for a long time. I'm seriously wondering, though, if a major issue was these sensors, that this could actually be causing the meltdown of many of the Dr. Stretches. That if they had these different sensors that aren't quite as thick, that, like, since this has this extra plastic to give it a little bit more closeness on the bottom side versus it having to touch the metal plate, that, and also having that black plastic piece there is enough to make a difference. And then another thing is the guillotine has zero protection. That's just straight up forcing it. Every single time the guillotine goes up and down, it just pulls this gear in as much as it can, tightens it up as much as it can, and there's no sensor to just like say, hey, you know, we've got the guillotine up as far as it'll go. So I'm wondering if with this redesign, basically the 2005 version of the building did not have a working guillotine anymore, even though, and this is unmodified, it obviously has placement for one. Because there's another slot here on the top, definitely intended for another motor. But they only have two. One for the spinning guy there in the middle, and one for the gate. But they just ditched the guillotine altogether, even though they obviously were planning on it. I'm wondering if part of the reason why they ditched it is because they didn't want to have any more service complaints. Because I know this building was infamous for being sent in for repairs. And Lemax used to actually offer that service of actually being able to send it back, and they would try and fix it or whatever, and you could actually send it to them. So I'm wondering if they're just like, no, we really don't want to deal with any more mechanisms that are partially failing or, you know, poor manufacturing and no actual protection for the mechanism when it's reaching the top and bottom. So they didn't do the guillotine because there was no easy way for them to implement that. So that's just one of my theories on why they maybe got rid of it. The newer redesign, though, is very interesting because it basically doesn't share any of the original frame. Essentially, the whole thing is different. It doesn't look the same at all. Like you can even see this plastic piece on the top is different. The whole back plate where the mechanisms are is completely redesigned. And this is a good thing. This is so much more robust. If these buildings all had this, they would not break in this manner. Because this is starting to go towards the more modern version of lemax, where they had rubber bands connecting stuff to prevent direct torque being put on the motor, so that then if there was slippage, it could be handled by the rubber band. and not by the gears and the motor. And so like this one, the ultraviolet light shines from this side, and the gearing for the gate is on this side, and they just have obviously the tiny little gearbox and the motor. Whereas this one, it's on opposite sides. Ultraviolet light is on the left instead of on the right, and it the gearing for the gate is on opposite sides. And then also the sensors here are screwed into place versus having glue, so much better there. I'm still not sure if they 100% have good soldering all the time, because this one was like poorly soldered, where the wires basically just came right off. This one appears to be fine, but obviously it could vary from piece to piece. Another really good addition is ribbon cable. They actually have plugs on this one, which is like, for me as a repair person on these buildings, is a major improvement, because now you can just like, oh yeah, unplug it. And I'm assuming this is because of how many of these were actually sent back for repairs. Like, this really, there's no other reason for them to have done this except for that. Where they had so many of these with broken gearboxes, broken gates, whatever, that they actually made this repairable, basically, because it actually has plugs. It looks, this one was still sent in, removed from a building. I'm not sure if this had plug on it or not. I've actually never worked on one of the 2005 buildings, because the most popular version of it, of course, is the guillotine one, because it's much cooler to have a moving piece out here versus it being stationary. But just from looking at this, they made major improvements with the reliability, because, yeah, the fact that sensors are screwed in, plugs, and then the way the gears are, it doesn't use any of those junky gearboxes that are noisy too, because they're, again, basically servo gearboxes. They're very similar to servos. They're more noisy because of how many little gears are in there, and the little tiny gears break much easier. So here they used all these big, beefier gears to drive the gate. So it has the motor back here with just big gears and nothing that's easily broken. And then for some reason the turntable guy has this rubber band mech, which again is better if you're worried about torque being put on it. I don't really understand why they did that for that. Like, I don't know if there was a bunch of kids who were like sticking their finger in here trying to get him to stop. That's the only reason you would really need to do this rubber band system for that. Or if you're just lazy and didn't want to deal with designing a way for the motor to interface with the gears more directly. Or they also just wanted to do this design of having it be on the side with a corkscrew gear there at the top. I'm not really sure why they did it for this particular mechanism, but either way, it's way better designed. Much easier to work on. Unfortunately, the hope was that we could use parts from this to repair this one, and that didn't work because they're not at all the same. So, if you're trying to buy a 2005 Torture Factory to repair one that's older with a guillotine, it's really not going to work unless you have some major, I don't know, maybe 3D printing skills and wizardry to try and like get the guillotine mechanism to work in this frame, or you had some other wizardly plan to try and get this to be interfaced, but really the parts are not at all the same. So yeah, so I think that pretty much concludes my video on this gate. It's very fidgety. I despise this older one now, and I'll be kind of groaning whenever I see one that's starting to click or fail, because now I've dealt with this so in depth. So anyway, thank you for watching, and let me know if you have any questions or comments. And I always have my about info now on or in my about page on YouTube. I have info for how to contact me with my email and phone, so you can always reach out if you have a building you're wanting to send in for repairs or more general questions and things. I'm always happy to help. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more videos on my channel.